Goeiemorgen, hallo, Sauerborna. Welcome to my channel. I'm Nix. I get the sense that while the ANC, South Africa's getting just a little tired of the same old excuses for our economic struggles, for the unemployment, blaming everything on apartheid and white monopoly capital, redress, reform, transform, sovereign, you name it, they've said it. But the economy, our unemployment rate says otherwise, as we all know. So if you're as frustrated as I am about this repetitive, ideological rant, then this video might be for you. Today I'm going to break down the high-level principles behind macro and microeconomics. I know, like super big words. I never would have guessed 5 years ago that I would be speaking about macro and microeconomics. Cray. I want to talk about how our very inflexible microeconomy actually is the cause for our prices going up. Our restriction on innovation, think Starlink, and it prevents efficient resource allocation that we would be able to take advantage of the global market. It's shameful. It's shameful. Let me show you the hard data. I want to show you how unfree our economy, South Africa, really is. We rank a dismal 103rd globally. That's from the 2025 Heritage Foundation Index of Economic Freedom. We are classified as mostly unfree, and that scores at around 57, well below world average, and of course, far behind prosperous nations. But of course, we throw a hissy fit because we can't go to the G20. Far behind prosperous nations. I'm actually going to show you how a timeline map actually shows how more unfree South Africa's become since the end of apartheid. And when you see it like this, it's undeniable. These are bad policy decisions by a bunch of people who think they're in power today. They have been in power for over 30 years. They're the ones holding us back. For all the haters who want to scream that apartheid and the lived trauma and over 30 years, you can only imagine what the ANC could have done to change this continued lived experience or lived trauma from apartheid. But you've waited 30 years. I think that should be the question. What on earth? How many more years are these people going to wait? You've waited 30 years and you haven't revolted yet. Cray. So stick around. I want to unpack some of the evidence. You know how I love data. I want to show how all of these social ills the ANC keeps referring to, that they'll solve those social ills. Don't worry about it. You just need to wait another 30 years. But it's them. This is an ANC problem. The ANC is the yang of the yin of apartheid. Guys, let's ramble. I want to start off by reading the post from Magati Wadi. I really am going to presume I am pronouncing that name 100% incorrectly, and I apologize for that. She says, I tried to manufacture products in Africa. The optimist in me said, let's create jobs at home, which is what Cyril preaches to us all the time. Entrepreneurship. Here's what I learned. Getting cardboard boxes requires 1,000 minimum order, 50% upfront, and 4 to 8 weeks wait time. In the US, order online, next day delivery, no minimum order. Now, multiply that struggle across everything you need to run a business. That's why Africa stays poor. Not colonialism, not racism. The regulation makes legal business nearly impossible, and yet we keep adding more regulation, wondering why nothing changes. Lovely lady. One of the comments actually say, And then a European NGO comes and gives old stuff for free, basically killing all demands from your potential customers. And she responds saying, it's always these NGOs. And I agree. This is where the fun begins. This is a world heat map, which you can find on heritage.org. This is from the timeline 1995 to 2025. So this is post-apartheid, South Africa being all the way down there at 60.7. Now, let's go all the way to 2025. We're sitting at 57.3, mostly unfree. So let's take a look at 1995 to 2025 under some of these categories. Property rights, which is a really, really hot topic at the moment. 1995, our score was 50. What do we look like in 2025? 44.3. Repressed is the term we fall under now. Let's take a look at government integrity. South Africa was sitting at 50, and then we have 45.1. Government integrity. Judicial effectiveness. Obviously, there was nothing being tracked in 1995. Okay, so where's the first year? 2017 is the first year that judicial effectiveness was tracked. South Africa was at 59.7. So how effective is your justice system? 2025, 57.7. Let's take a look at the next category, tax burden. 1995, South Africa was sitting at a tax burden, 61.1. We are now sitting at 67.9. which shows that the tax burden has gone up as well. Government spending, 1995, 63.3. Let's find out. 68.6. So fiscal house, 2017, it's the first time South Africa's green, whoop whoop, 70%. This is also the year before Cyril took presidency in 2018. Going all the way to 2025, we are glaringly red, 45.8, and that's it under fiscal health. Well now, ANC, let's take a look at business freedom. Post-apartheid, 1995, 85 points. Wow. And that is free. It is the dark green. Yellow, moderately free, 64. We've dropped 11 points for business freedom. Let's take a look at labor freedom. Also not tracked then. Let's see. It came into play 2005. 58.7, mostly unfree. And that sits under labor freedom. Interesting. 71. That is the only one we've increased on. I will figure out what labor freedom means when it comes to overall economic freedom. I'll put it up on the screen now. Because no, I did not look at these categories before I started recording. I thought it could be a surprise for both you and I. So out of all the categories, labor freedom is the only one that's gone up. Okay, 1995, monetary freedom, 73.8 for South Africa, 74.5. I wonder what monetary freedom is because I have made a video about the lax financial policies the ANC have put in place since 1998 when it comes to moving your money everywhere but into growing and developing South Africa. So from there, let's look at trade freedom. Oh, wow, repressed, of course, but we had just come out of sanctions, am I right? 43, we are now 68.4. Yes, I can understand that. Let's take a look. 1995, investment freedom, 70. That's interesting, mostly free. Oh, wow, investment freedom repressed. I'm struggling to comprehend those numbers. I really thought investment freedom, how often does Cyril A take these EU green transition investments and talk about how open we are for investment. But Cyril, we've gone from 70% mostly free to 40% or 40 points repressed. You're going backwards, but I mean, you won't even listen to economists. What makes me think you're going to listen to me? And then the last one, financial freedom. Mostly unfree, 1995, 50 points. Oh, word, 40 points. Repressed. That's interesting. That is the progress South Africa's made from an economic freedom, from an economic status point of view. Here's the overview of South Africa's so-called economic freedoms, the progress we've made since 1995. We only have improvements on 2. We're sitting only with 2 green: fiscal health, financial freedom, investment freedom, government integrity and property rights is repressed. I don't think the ANC are even allowed to stand up on stage and talk about how diverse and equity and all of those big fancy words. Repressed. Well done, ANC. Viva. Now, to summarize everything I've shown you, this article really put it into perspective for me. The points I'm going to highlight is really what you need to know about the missteps the ANC are taking when it comes to utilizing the resources they have, I mean, which is evident in all the state-owned organizations, but utilizing the resources and money they have to create more. You know, generating wealth is really a concept, I'm sorry to say, but there is a lack of understanding when it comes to generating wealth. And that's also where long-term poverty is now officially entrenched in our society. This article is titled, "Why South Africa's Economic Growth is Stalled." South Africa has now endured 15 years of weak economic growth. The 2010s were the worst decade since World War II, with the economy growing by only 16%. In stark contrast to the preceding decade, where output grew by 39%, nearly 2.5 times as fast. The near-term outlook for growth remains weak, forecasted at 1.1%. Many of us know this. The thing is, other emerging markets are expected to grow at an average of 4.1% over the next 3 years. How on earth is South Africa, with our current challenges, supposed to compete with comparable emerging markets growing at 4.1? We are hustling for 3. Boy, oh boy. We get 1.1 because it's the soft bigotry of low expectations that is really the essence, the soul of the ANC's ideology. 4.1% compared to our, I think it's currently sitting at 0.8. We're aiming for 1.1. Whoop, whoop. That will solve unemployment. Without improved microeconomic policy and outcomes, these approaches are unlikely to have effect. Because what is happening is the government thinks spending more and lowering interest rates is the solution. But it might only be an immediate solution. Again, the ability to think long-term, forecast for the future, and then plan with the resources you have accordingly to attain X. Which is why this elusive transformation is still up in the air. The point is that microeconomic policies need to change before we see any sort of macroeconomic growth. The article says that our supply curve is inelastic. It basically means that our economy has limited capacity to increase production when demands rise. Positive demand shocks like those from expansionary macroeconomic policy lead to higher prices rather than meaningful growth. So when something happens in the global market, we are not able to respond, and therefore we have to increase the price. When supply is more elastic, production can ease as demand rises, leading to real growth with minimal impact on prices. And really, who stands on stage and talks about the cost of living, the cost of basic goods, inflation, the poor, they need bread? Here, Cyril, you're restricting companies from being flexible in how they manage their own business and therefore contribute to the economy. You are so controlling and stifling that the only thing anyone is able to do, the only thing they are able to do, the only decision you have given them is increase the price. Again, the ANC's fault. Something that I found very valuable. Instead of reaping the benefits of knowledge creation and spillovers associated with global markets, we try to compete with imports and fail to encourage the exports we can specialize in. Essentially, one market ain't doing so great. You could buy those products cheap, bring them in, pump manufacturing. You can't because there's no electricity, but if you could, you should. And then you can export those products at 10 times what it cost you to manufacture them. All of our smelters and all of those industrial plants closing are the ones who would be able to have done all of this. Our inward focus has led to excessive microeconomic management. Talk about like micromanagement, where regulatory controls distort market signals. The market signals something, but you cannot react fast enough because of regulatory controls. And boy, if there's something you need when it comes to markets, is speed. Not something the ANC is very familiar with. Prices should guide economic decisions, such as production and job creation. But regulations often obscure these signals by creating incentives that hinder growth. To expand my company is too complicated. I would rather actually just remain small and maybe, open up another company overseas. People would rather find a way to work around these regulations than take them on because it's expensive and it's time consuming and it literally eats into your profits. Because you have lawyers' fees and accounting fees for all of this stuff. That's profit going down the drain because of some stupid regulation the majority of South Africans don't actually want. We must question whether our public services and network industries are fit for purpose. More focus on measurable outcomes. How on earth is a business supposed to operate when they don't have water? When they don't have electricity, when the roads are so bad, the cost to maintain trucks skyrockets, the cost for those tires. Toll roads increase. There's no freight rail, which is the cheapest way to move products across land. South Africa is a massive country. Freight is the cheapest. Who ruined that? Who dug a hole and buried that brand? Looted it to its core? I don't know, man. The ANC. Public services should aim to facilitate economic activity and inclusion as efficiently as possible. Efficiently as possible. There are so many layers and complications and costs involved in business in South Africa, which is also why we have all of these conglomerates owning the food industry, owning the clothing industry. The article ends off by saying, far too often we ignore microeconomics and settle on demands for more spending or cutting interest rates as quickly as possible, despite the abundant evidence that these don't work. Bad microeconomics makes good macroeconomic policy harder. Yes. Microeconomics is the foundation on which you can then go and expand into the macro. I'm always referring to the foundation. Your job, ANC, is to build a foundation. Our foundation currently looks like a sinkhole, and the ANC is literally putting like sea sand in there, hoping that'll fix the problem. Our microeconomic environment will not be improved by making macroeconomic policy less sustainable. An investor doesn't put money into a country for 1 year. They have to think 10, 15, 20 years into the future, because the cost to invest in a country is so high. More often than not, they run at a loss for the first couple of years. I mean, most often, entrepreneurs, businesses only start seeing a profit after 5 years, 10 years. So if my country is so unstable, so controlling, with the only sign being more regulation, why would I invest my money for a 20-year period? Because if I'm an investor, I also have a couple of smarts about me, and I'm surrounded by a couple of smarts. And when you see what's happening in South Africa, it's all going to go downhill before it goes uphill, and I'd rather wait it out. That's the problem with South Africa. Our foundation is cracked and crumbling, the same as our infrastructure, the same as our roads, the same as our unemployment rate. Crumbling, imploding, destroyed. Viva ANC. So to close off my ramble, the principles are clear. Excessive regulation, our microeconomics, the economics within our country, within our border, distorts our ability to look outside and reap the benefits of a global market. And of course, the most infamous policy, the job blocking policy, the one the ANC is refusing to talk about. Kudos to Solly, dude. Well done on pushing back, just showing that it can be done. But these job blocking policies from the ANC that they refuse to budge on, it is literally a hurdle after unexpected cost after an unexpected cost. And it's done by government, and they do it to rescue the poor. The rigid controls the ANC have put in place because of their ideologies has meant that our economy has completely stalled for over a decade. And we, as individuals within the GDP of South Africa, have become poorer. This is without a doubt government overreach, government involvement in things that have actually nothing to do with them. And at what point do media even say to the ANC, could you please fix your house? You know, your house is filthy, rubbish piling up everywhere. If you've ever seen those extreme hoarder episodes, that's what your house looks like, ANC. But you know what? You climb into your fancy 3.5 million rand car and go visit at somebody else's house. You go to Cape Town. You go visit the DA's house. You live in their luxury. Nice. Nobody knows that you're a hoarder and your house looks despicable. You wear your fancy suits, you drive your fancy cars, and you stay in your fancy hotels, and you get protected by your blue lights. South Africa deserves better. The ANC should absolutely be 100% ashamed of themselves. For me, as usual, I like to push the fact that this is the time we need to educate others and share, create awareness about these sorts of stories, the tangible impact of corruption, and remind people it's been 30 years. Why have you been happy to wait for 30 years? And how much longer are you prepared to wait for? I honestly think we all deserve so much better. Guys, what are your thoughts on this? I am sure we all agree ANC ideology is the problem. B is the problem. The land issue is the problem. And now they're taking on the USA with this refugee. I can't even get into it. Like, X has a on that front. Apart from me making these videos to generate awareness and share the actual stats and facts, what are your guys' thoughts on what else can be done to A, change the perception for next year's elections, and B, get the ANC the frick out? You know, they're a 40% party and they still run around like they own us. It just drives me insane. What you can do to help me is push that subscribe button if you haven't yet. I do want to give a quick shout out for everybody who's been dropping comments on my videos and giving me amazing feedback. You have no idea how meaningful all of that is. It really is. I got chicken skin thinking about how happy I am when I get to read all these amazing comments. And to all my new viewers, to all my new subscribers, Baya Donkey, thank you very much. I am hugely grateful and appreciative. Nikki and Paul, of course you guys sit in spot number 1. I appreciate your ongoing support. Thank you so much. Other than that, if you would like to be part of the Ramble Club, details on how to support me are in the description below. You can also, for free, press that subscribe button, give this video a like, drop a comment, and share it with somebody who you think needs to know about this story. Those are free ways that you can support my channel. It really does tell the YouTube algorithm that this content is fab and it's useful and people are enjoying it, which kind of gives me a bit of a boost in the algorithm. The algorithm war is real, guys. It is very complicated. But it will give my video a boost in the algorithm, increase my subscriber base, and really just help me and support me in educating people so that we can get the ANC out, aka Footsack ANC. So guys, I hope you found this video insightful. And as always, continue to be the most amazing human being you can be. If you aim for a 1% improvement every single day of the year, you've achieved a 365% improvement in just 1 year. Think about it. Have a great day, guys. Over and out.